Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here again with another review for you. This time I'm going to be talking about the first two episodes of Ultimate Spider-Man. Overall, I think this is a show that has potential, but it needs some work. It hasn't quite gelled yet. So let's just jump right into it and start talking about the show. The first thing is, I think one of the reasons I'm hopeful for this show is that it has a really excellent voice cast. For example, we have Greg. I've got my notes off to the side as always. So we've got Greg Clark from the movies playing Agent Coulson slash Principal Coulson now, and he brings that sort of very understated, very flat, very seen it all thing to Coulson that we've come to enjoy from the character. So I think he'll be someone that'll be fun to see pop up when he pops up. Another person who we have that I'm very happy that they got back was J.K. Simmons, who of course was J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies. That's where I think most of people are going to know him. As I've said in one of my other reviews, I always think of him as Emil Skota from Law and Order, and as the yellow M&M. I made a mistake about that in one of my earlier videos. Anyway, so he's back and he's doing J. Jonah Jameson just the way we like him, just the way he should be in the comics, and I have absolutely nothing bad to say about him there. And another person we have who's doing a fantastic job, who I'm always still happy to see in anything, is Tara Strong as MJ. Now, you can very easily make the case that Tara Strong is the #1 female voice actor in America, and her list of credits is just absolutely insane. Like, most recently, she was Harley Quinn in Batman Arkham City. She's Risha in Holiday in Star Wars The Old Republic. I know I'm certainly having fun with her whenever she turns up, because I am playing both a Jedi Consular and a Smuggler, so I'm getting plenty of Tara Strong. She's of course got a heck of a reputation in doing superhero stuff as Raven on Teen Titans, and of course there are my personal two favorite roles for her being Princess Clara on Drawn Together, if you remember that show, and of course Riku in Final Fantasy X and X2. So yeah, she's an asset to any show she's in. Now, the one person I'm kind of concerned about, and I think I've heard this echoed by a lot of other people, is the fellow Drake Bell as Peter Parker slash Spider-Man. Look, to me, how Spider-Man sounds is like the way he did on the 90s cartoon. That's just the era of Spider-Man fan that I more or less come from. And, not as any kind of knock against Bell, it's just I don't think he's quite found the voice yet. When he's kind of having fun with it and is excited, and Spidey's having his lighthearted moments, I think Bell does a fairly decent job, but he doesn't quite sell the angsty moments. I think it just might be that the actor hasn't quite settled into the role. I mean, it has only been 2 episodes, and if you're an animation fan like I am, you've noticed a lot that it usually takes a lot of actors, even very good ones, a couple of episodes to really settle into the role of their characters. So, I can't really condemn the guy at this point. I think it's far too early to tell. I think he has potential, but he's not quite there yet. So I'm going to leave it at that for them. So let's talk about another one of the reasons why I'm hopeful for this show, and that is the people working behind the scenes in terms of writing and producing. We have Joe Quesada, the big guy at Marvel Comics. We have Jeff Loeb. He's done some good stuff. He's done some not so great stuff, but he's a guy with a history in comics. So I'm not going to get into a big Jeff Loeb argument, but let's just leave it at that. We also, of course, have Brian Michael Bendis, the writer of the Ultimate Spider-Man comics himself, as a consultant. And folks, I love the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. They've had their high low points and their low points, but for the most part, they have continuously been some of the best Spider-Man comics for like the last, it's been more than 10 years now. It really is hard to believe. Time does fly. And of course, we also have the venerable Paul Dini of things like Batman, the animated series, and Batman Beyond, all the great old DC shows from several years back. So, and of course, we have the guys from Man of Action, Joe Kelly, Steve Siegel, Duncan Riello. I'm horribly butchering his name, and of course, excuse me, Joe Kelly, a guy who's a very good writer and somebody with more than a little bit of experience with these Spider-Man comics. So more or less everybody behind the scenes, I think, has what it takes to make this a fantastic show. So let's get into what is actually going on in the show itself. And overall, I think these first two episodes, I mean, they're not the greatest start. Didn't go out and just grab me by the shoulders and really like, whoa, me like say the first episodes of Batman the Animated Series or Young Justice did. But again, there's enough there to make me think there's potential in this show. It's just going to take some time, again, to gel. So let me see. What are some of the things that I did like? Okay, well, one, they're certainly not skimping on the references to the greater Marvel universe, specifically the Marvel movie universe. Now, this is doubtlessly its own separate alternate reality, but they're definitely going for those touchstones, and that makes perfect sense because outside of the comics, that's what most people know. And this being directed at kids, that's what they should go to. It just makes sense from a storytelling and a business perspective. And it was really nice to see the shout outs to Captain America and Iron Man, of course, but the lesser known, the things that people might not be quite as familiar with. It's been a while since we had a Fantastic Four movie, and we've never gotten a terribly good Fantastic Four movie, so I was pleased to see The Thing. We had Stan Lee turn up, so you can't go wrong with Stan Lee. He's just a bundle of energy. And of course, he's the guy, along with Steve Ditko and Jack Kirby, who basically made Spider-Man. And seeing him turn up in those episodes was really funny. And we even got in a mention of Furbish Man. Now, if that ain't a shout out to the guys who are the hardcore comics fans, I don't know what is. And let's talk about the humor in the series. I've got some mixed feelings on it. It's, I think, mostly due to the fact that, I'm not a kid anymore. I'm an adult. If you had dropped this in front of me when I was the age when I was watching maybe the 90s Spider-Man cartoon or a little bit younger, I'd really be digging all of this. But I'm not. So this all comes across as being a little hyper, a little juvenile. But again, this is more directed towards a much younger audience. So I think you can really kind of see, especially given the pedigree of the show, quite a bit of the Ben 10 influence. Maybe they're sort of trying to go a little bit for some of the humor and manga and anime influence that we saw on Teen Titans. And I think that all has the potential to work. They just need to strike the right balance. And of course, we saw the little nods to the comics. Like we got a few times where people were punching folks, and we had old style comic book sound effects popping up, which I appreciated. They were trying to really go for it. I don't know. As long as they don't go too heavy on that, I think it'll be fine. It does lend a nice bit to the atmosphere. And there were other little nods there, like the references to Romita's Cake Shop being, of course, a reference to John Romita Jr. and Sr., two venerable Spider-Man artists in their own right. And I also enjoyed the Batman riff they had in the second episode. But let's talk about a few of the things that I'm not so jazzed about. Real quick, turning Mary Jane into Chloe Sullivan from Smallville. Yeah, I'm not feeling that, guys. I sort of liked it more in the comics where Mary Jane was much more, in a way, Peter's equal, that she was also kind of a geek. and sort of brainy Janie, as they refer to her in the comics a few times. So it just feels like we're going down a path we've been down in other shows that doesn't really need to be retreaded here. And it's only been one episode, so it's really hard to make any firm decisions about how I feel about let's call them the Amazing Friends, for lack of a better word. And if you understand what that's a reference to, then give yourself a gold star. So Iron Fist, I think, is solid enough. He just kind of has that little problem of being a blonde white dude who's spouting all this weird Chinese kung fu stuff, and that just doesn't play as well nowadays as it did when he was created like back in the 70s. Luke Cage, Power Man. I think he comes across as a little bit better. He seems a more solid, believable kind of character to me. But again, we don't think we have a very good grasp of who he is just yet. But I think out of all of the four, he's the one I think they're doing the best job with so far. Nova. Look, I have no idea who the heck Sam Alexander is. I'm not going to claim to be any kind of expert on Nova as a character, but I enjoyed the who was it? Was it Jeff Loeb that was the really good writer that was on? Yeah, I think it was Jeff Loeb who did the really nice run on New Warriors like about 20 years ago. I caught up I picked up individual collections for a really nice deal and read and thought they were really wonderful comics. So I'm just used to Nova being Richard Rider. I don't know quite what to make of this Sam Alexander guy. White Tiger, I read her miniseries that Mercedes Lackey wrote a few years back. It wasn't bad, it wasn't fantastic. It was just a little too heavy on coincidences, not fortuitous coincidences. Not exactly the Charles Dickens level of fortuitous coincidences, but it was just okay. So I really don't have any huge opinion about White Tiger one way or the other right now. So again, everybody has potential. It just hasn't gelled. I keep saying that, I know, but that is really all that I can. That is my main thought on the series so far. Although I will say that my other big thought is, I really hope they don't keep this Spider-Man motorcycle thing roaming around. I'm sorry, the Spider-Mobile was a sort of an amusing little thing that popped up in the comics years ago. Every once in a while they'll throw a reference into it in the modern age, but superheroes who aren't, like Batman roaming around in personalized vehicles, it's just kind of ridiculous. Keep Spider-Man swinging from webs, because he's Spider-Man. That's what he does. He doesn't need a freaking motorcycle. Characters like Batman, like Robin, Batgirl, I'll even say Captain America sort of work with things like motorcycles or cars that are personalized to them. But Spider-Man, come on, guys. Let me see. Anything else? Oh yeah, one little last thing that did give me a big laugh was Wizard referring to his weapons as power gloves. If you're an old school gamer, you will understand why that's kind of hysterical. But let's leave it at that. Anyway, Ultimate Spider-Man has potential, not quite there yet. I'm going to give it a few more episodes and see how I feel. So stay tuned for those reviews. I'll catch you guys later.